Welcome to the Misinformation Nation channel, where we unpick media bias, fake news, and conspiracy theories. In this video, January the 6th, 2021. You remember, you probably even watched it, but now, 1 year later, lots of controversy over what it was and what it should be called. Was it an act of terror, an insurrection, or maybe just a riot? Stay with us and click the bell notification icon so you'll never miss an episode. Let's get into this. And no doubt you've seen or heard or read media coverage marking the anniversary in the media. What different media call that event is significant for one reason, in that it gives away some clues as to how they covered it. So let's start with Tucker Carlson of Fox News and his struggle to find a way to describe exactly what happened last year and exactly what we should call it.
So looking back, you could probably call what happened on January 6th a riot. We have called it that, but really only just a riot, maybe just barely. By recent standards, it was an embarrassingly tepid effort. No one even bothered to set a fire or spray paint slogans on the walls. So the question is, why are we still talking about this? Why are leaders obsessing over this event? For every single one of the last 365 days, the propaganda machine has been at 11, ginning up noise about January 6th to deafening levels, and it's not stopping. In fact, after all this time, amazingly, the yelling is getting louder and wilder and still more disconnected from reality.
Okay, I know that is Fox News, which everyone knows peddles in opinions, especially opinions based towards the right-wing conservative element of the American political spectrum, especially the Donald Trump-led coalition of middle-class and working-class pre-millennial generation of mostly white males, a group of people who traditionally had some power in a society that has undergone sweeping changes that they may not like. That's the message in the subtext of expressions like "Make America Great Again," even if America wasn't so great for everyone else. Fox News and its presenters like Carlson nudge and wink at this audience all the time, using words like "you" and "them" to differentiate who is included in this vision of America. But one other media outlet, The Daily Show, made its point in a video comparing Fox News coverage using clips from Fox coverage of the BLM riots of the previous summer. The destruction of our country, they called it, lawlessness, an attack on the police, an attack on the rule of law. The humor of that Daily Show clip was that the January 6th riot on the Capitol pretty much ticked all of those boxes, while Fox struggled to call it a riot, and just barely, and definitely not domestic terrorism, and God help Senator Ted Cruz or anyone else who used that word.
So, Tucker, as a result of my sloppy phrasing, it's caused a lot of people to misunderstand what I meant. Let me tell you what I meant to say. What I was referring to are the limited number of people who engaged in violent attacks against police officers. Now, I think you and I both agree that if you assault a police officer, you should go to jail. That's who I was talking about. And the reason the phrasing was sloppy is I have talked dozens, if not hundreds of times. I've drawn a distinction. I wasn't saying that the thousands of peaceful protesters supporting Donald Trump are somehow terrorists. I wasn't saying the millions of patriots across the country supporting President Trump are terrorists. And that's what a lot of people have misunderstood that comment.
Wait a second, but wait, but hold on. What you just said doesn't make sense. So if somebody assaults a cop, he should be charged and go to jail. I couldn't agree more. We have said that for years. But that person's still not a terrorist. Like, why'd you use that word? You're playing into the other side's characterization that, as Joe Kent just explained, allows them to define an entire population as foreign combatants. And you know that. So why'd you do it?
Just to jog your memory, what happened on January 6th, 2021, was that these non-terrorist protesters, whatever they're calling them now, stormed the U.S. Capitol building. Some of them were clearly not there just for protests. They breached the gates, the line of police officers, and they entered the building, and there they threatened lives. The cops were threatened, abused, and traumatized. One had a stroke afterwards. We know that some of their abusers were off-duty law enforcement officers, and military, by the way. Lawmakers had to end their business of the day, which was certifying the election victory of Joe Biden, and they had to hide in their offices, in some cases, fear for their lives. An interesting irony of all this was that in the wake of the Blue Lives Matter movement, which many saw as a backlash to the Black Lives Matter movement and the politicization of policing, was that many of the blue lives in the Capitol building that day were black. So did blue lives matter when they were also black lives? I ask. It's an open question. One of the most interesting things produced by the media this month to mark the tragic anniversary was the article in The Guardian, whose central idea was that this riot was part of, but not the complete picture of, a coup attempt. The overall plan was to create doubt about the election results and to have those under Trump's influence or control support the unsupported allegations of election fraud, then create enough chaos for Trump to call it the Insurrection Act. You know, the insurrection that the right-wing commentators say that didn't happen. And they could have kept Trump in power, since a Republican majority House of Representatives could have declared him president during the chaos of insurrection. The evidence of this attempted coup is that we know Trump applied pressure on officials at different levels to overturn the election results. There are recorded telephone conversations like this.
Look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state, and flipping the state is a great testament to our country. There's nothing wrong with saying that, that you've recalculated.
This effort to overturn his election laws included the effort to press Vice President Mike Pence to intervene in the certification of election results. Pence, the Justice Department, and the Joint Chiefs of Staff all pushed back, refusing to cooperate with the so-called Stop the Steal campaign. We know all of this as a result of stunning testimony that is a matter of public record at the January 6th Special House Committee. We heard of the attempt of many in Trump's entourage to call off the attack. That includes Fox News commentators. He's destroying his legacy, wrote Laura Ingraham of Fox News on a text message that was given as evidence in the inquiry. After hearing that, many of us wondered if Fox News is really such a reliable source of impartial news that we might have thought before. But the most important question about this story is, how does it really matter? Did a coup attempt, insurrection, protest, riot happen in the seat of the American democracy while the country watched in amazement, something they never thought they would see in their country? What does it mean now, 1 year later? Here's why it matters still. A whopping 40% of Americans believe that Joe Biden did not win the election, according to a poll by Axios Momentive. You could point out that the polls show a majority of Americans still believe in their democratic system, yes, but that glass is almost half empty, too. The eye-watering fact about the 40% is that there is no evidence about this so-called election steal, except that somebody called it that. That is, the man who would profit the most from calling his election loss into question. But that instability is a small price to pay for his career, he might think. As for accountability, Trump once said he could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue and never lose a vote. And the truth is that he could probably do a lot worse than that without anybody really caring. So there is no longer any accountability. There are people willing to believe anything the former president says or does. Notice I said willing to believe rather than just believing. I think there's an important distinction there. These people consider Trump to be their guy, like a family member who does something unsaintly, like trying to orchestrate a coup against the democratic system, for example. But he's still one of you, so that's okay. And there is no way that this threat to the world's most powerful democracy, therefore democracy itself, is going away anytime soon. Trump and his family and followers have put their needs ahead of the nation's. He's got disciples on all levels of government and administration, including anyone who wants to run for the Republicans for anything in upcoming elections. Why not? It's a winning strategy. Shame that costs us truth and belief in our democracy. I'm Christopher Daw. That's our take. Drop yours in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe and click the bell notification icon so you never miss an episode. And I will see you soon.